Welcome to Industrial Marketing Live. I'm Peyton Warren, a senior strategist at the industrial marketing agency Gorilla 76, and I am one of your IML hosts. Today, we are talking about artificial intelligence. No, not the robot kind, the language model kind. AI language processing tools like Chat-GPT, Google Bard, and Claude have been taking the world by storm in 2023. And as we venture into Q4, I really can't believe it, we refuse to let the year go by without talking about it here on Industrial Marketing Live. Now, this is a topic we're still learning a lot about. If I'm being honest, I feel overwhelmed by it. AI is a playground. So I want to say at the outset that we see today's IML session is just a little bit different. We really want to hear from you always, but today that's especially true. I want to know, how are you using AI right now, if at all, whether it's for marketing or something else? What has been working for you? Have you experimented with it at all? What experiments have you done? If you've got anything to share about that already, just go ahead and start adding it into the chat, or, heck, just raise your hand, use those little Zoom features, and we will pull you up on stage today to join the conversation at the outset. But to get us started, I want to welcome our most adventurous gorillas who've been jumping into the crazy world of AI. Kevin, Brendan, Alan, Grace, Aaron, you've all been playing with AI lately. So tell me, how are you using it? Whoever jumps in first goes first.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. So I've just been looking at all the things that I do for work and just trying to find ways to make it better or to make it faster. So I will say, I don't think these AI tools, at least, the ones that I've been using, like Chat-GPT and Claude, are at a place where it's like, put the prompt in, you get this amazing thing out the first try, and then you can upload that into LinkedIn or to an ad or to an article, and you're good to go without any human oversight. But I have found it's been great for brainstorming. It's great for getting something on the paper that I can edit down. So I kind of suffer from a blinking cursor on an empty page syndrome. And I much rather have something on the page that I can edit down and craft and form myself compared to just sitting out and writing out the thing I want. It takes a lot of work to figure out the prompts, but that's kind of where I've been using it, is like LinkedIn post formation, coming up with topics for articles, podcast scripting, podcast outlining, podcast questions, writing podcast descriptions, with a transcript. Yeah, and helping to edit podcasts. So I've been using it pretty frequently in a lot of different areas, using it for some positioning, for customer research, what does a manufacturing engineer do? Or what does this really specific job title in this field do? So it's been helping me, because there's just so much variation in what people do in manufacturing. So it's been helping me wrap my head around without having to go and search for Google. So kind of use it as a search engine a little bit. So I've been using it pretty varied. But I will say a lot of human effort has to go into the final product to get it ready for something that's audience facing. So that's how I've been using it. Kevin, Alan, what have you guys been using it for?
Yeah, kind of the same thing there, Brendan. It's been like a thinking partner for me, and I've mostly just been using it to test and learn just what the heck is AI and what are the limitations. As a performance marketer, I deal in paid media, and I see so many people talk about, oh, AI is going to help you run better ad campaigns. It's going to optimize performance and metrics and everything. I've looked at a lot of the available AI tools on the market for performance marketing, and most of them are just designed for e-commerce or something where a transaction happens online. And it's not really artificial intelligence. It's just kind of an algorithm that does quick math to tell you which ads are giving you the best return on ad spend. So there's not a whole lot that it can do as far as actually optimizing paid media. I've even exported some data from LinkedIn, campaign performance, and then prompted Chat-GPT, hey, you're going to act as a LinkedIn ads expert. I'm going to give you this data. you're going to tell me which ads perform best based off of these metrics, these parameters. And I input that, and after about a minute, it'll give me something back and it'll say, well, these couple ads had the highest click-through rate. It's really cool that it can do that, but that's nothing new that a human can't do. And I feel like I can actually do that faster. It takes me longer to export the data and then input it into Chat-GPT and tell it to do exactly what I need, than for me to just pull up the ad platform. Okay, this ad had the highest click-through rate. Great. So I've been mostly just using Chat-GPT for experimenting, seeing if it can actually get a result or an output that I could get to in the same amount of time. I'm just excited for the time when AI is integrated into ad platforms, because then I'm not having to do all of these clunky steps to export and then import and this and that. It'd be really cool if I could just ask AI integrated into a LinkedIn campaign manager, like, hey, I want to A/B test these two headlines. These are the metrics. Tell me what you see.
And I'm mostly writing a lot of paid social ad copy. So in my role, I tend to use ChatGPT mostly as a writing intern that is very knowledgeable, very energetic, but very unpolished and unpracticed. So if I need to just bounce something, I don't have anyone available in my office to ask a stupid question or to think, how would you summarize this information? I think I might be missing something out of this long blog that I'm trying to get people to view. How would you summarize it? And then I can think, oh, well, okay, maybe I didn't think enough about that. I, can use that in my own thought process, but I don't trust it for anything. It is a really, really knowledgeable ninth grader. So I also will use it to be like, okay, I need to get under 600 characters here. And for the life of me, I can't get below 650. How would you do this, ChatGPT? And it will probably do it in a way that is not the best, but it will give me oh yeah, well, I won't do it like that, but I will do it like this, modifying what you did a little bit because I didn't think about that. So it's just a good way to bounce stuff off of somebody and then get different ways of doing things that you can try to apply in your own work, hopefully far better than what the AI gave you.
So I promised I would pull folks in. Jonathan Royce, if you're willing to come off mute, you said that you've tested it for writing blog articles on your site. You've got to refine them, but you've been using Chat-GPT. Caitlin, you plussed that a little bit. And Jared Beasley, you've also been mentioning that you're using it as like a launch point for blogs. So yeah, Jonathan, I'd be curious if you're willing, try to find you, but if you're
Sure, I'm here.
There you are. Hey, Jonathan.
Yeah. Hello. Sorry, I have my camera off because I'm actually prepping some dinner. It's getting to be dinner time in Europe. But
oh, cool.
Yeah, no, we have used it successfully to write like drafts to get like the sort of skeleton of a blog article in place, and then we've refined it with subject matter experts after that. So it's been a way to sort of, I can't remember who said the comment about going from blank cursor to at least like a page of text that we can refine after that. That's been a successful way that we've found that we've been able to use ChatGPT.
Do you feel like it has any limitations for like different topics that you've covered, or it's just been able to fill the void in any way that you need it right now?
It's been surprisingly good. One of the early tests I did actually was I asked it to write a sales strategy for our company against one of our major competitors. And it actually, it created a 5-point strategy of which 4 were part of our current strategy. There was one thing that I was like, oh, we're not doing that and we don't want to do that. But the other ones were surprisingly on target. Then we did it the opposite way. We asked it to pretend it was our biggest competitor and what would it use as a strategy against us. And it actually also came up with some reasonable tactics, I would say, like things I used to work for our largest competitor. So when I saw what it said, I was like, yeah, that's not too far off from what I would have done in my old job.
Interesting.
Today I'm testing, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I'm testing this tool that like I recorded a video of myself and it's now created an avatar of myself, and then it's gonna like I can give it text and it'll create a video of me speaking in 6 different languages.
Whoa.
It's
That's
called
probably
like
very handy.
yeah.
Is it-
Hopefully, I'll put it on my LinkedIn tomorrow, so you'll be able to see it. And I
That'd
can't
be
remember
cool.
exactly what it's called. It's called like Hey something. But yeah, I saw somebody else post a thing on Instagram about it, and I was like, I have to test this.
That's super cool, especially if you're doing, international business and you're trying to figure out ways to bridge the gap marketing wise there.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
Jonathan, I think you said something really important there. And it was just, you saw something cool and you just like, let's test it. That's the cool thing with a lot of these tools is there's free versions for most of them. So just sign up and just give it a go and see what happens. You don't have to use the things. Like I just saw one that was a company called Make Shorts to make, clips like Opus clips or like some of these other clip making ones. It didn't work very good for me because the original video I gave it kind of sucked. But I was like, oh, cool. So another one in the tool belt. If maybe Opus Clips or Headliner doesn't work, I have another one I can go to. But it's like, yeah, just kind of keeping your antenna open for new tools that are coming out because there are like new ones coming out every day. So find one that catches your eye and jump in, use it, and if you like it, you like it. If not, just throw it away.
That's awesome. We've also had some folks jump in here, and Jared, feel free if you want to add any color to how you've been using it about blogs too. I want to give you some.
I can hop in there. Sorry, I don't have my camera on. I broke my ankle, so I'm not in a.
Jared, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'm good. I've been using it as a launching point. I'm not always the best when it comes to writing, or even sometimes trying to come up with a what to write about. At times can be difficult not having the technical information myself. So I've been using it as a place to kind of get a framework. Just as Jonathan said, getting something to start with is kind of used as a skeleton in that framework to be able to input stuff that pertains to us more, make it in our own style. But it's been really helpful just to kind of get that jumping off point to help save some of the early work of trying to build it all out from scratch.
I love it. I love it. So folks have been asking, or it's been coming up a little bit about podcasting. And I know, Brendan, you mentioned that you've been using it for podcasting. Mary Keogh brought it up. Anna, I don't know if Anna's here today, but she's doing something really cool in Riverside. We've been using it a little bit to help speed up or make us not so reliant on a videographer to create like video content, post things like IML. But yeah, is anyone using it that way for video that they would like to share?
I can share, unless Mary, if you have something you want to jump in, or if everybody else is doing podcast stuff, feel free to jump in.
You first, Brendan.
Okay, so I've been using Chat-GPT and Claude. I like kind of go back and forth between the two to help with like ideation for topics and then creating outlines and scripts. And then so I'm doing that on my history podcast. And then on the work, the manufacturing marketer, using those tools to help me come up with questions, right? Like, so me and Aaron will pick a topic and then it's like, okay, so what are, 10 like talking points or 10 questions that we could talk about on the show? And it really helps us just get into it and start having good conversations without like us spending an hour on prep, kind of thinking of questions. So it kind of just gets us to a place where we can start our conversation, which has been really helpful. So we're recording the podcast in Zoom right now. I have started to play around with some other tools. So on my most recent history podcast, I did a recording in Squadcast, which was purchased by Descript. So it's a nice video and audio recorder. It works just like Zoom or like Zencastr or like Riverside. But it records to your local machine and then it uploads to the cloud after the recording. So you have really nice quality audio and video. What's cool now, though, is you can directly send those video files into Descript, and then Descript does an automatic transcription. And honestly, it got me like 95% of the way there for the transcript. It was not good at some capitalization. It was like people's names or like weird history stuff that it didn't necessarily get. And there's a couple of words that were, it has trouble with synonyms sometimes. So, but you go through and you can edit the script or edit the video with a script, right? So instead of like trying to go into like Premiere Pro and, cut video and splice video and have it fade in, fade out. You can just go into the script and select the text that you don't like anymore and delete it. And then it just edits the video. It has a little jump cut, but it does a pretty good job of like making it smooth. So all that was really cool. So, and there's like AI, they call it studio sound, where they do a lot of like the audio mixing that is really difficult for someone that's not an audio engineer to do. So you kind of get in there and, especially for like a hobby podcast, you can get in there and make it sound pretty nice. And I think you get that for like $12 a month with the Descript editor on their plan. And then what you can do is you can create compositions off that main video. And so like you just go through and select the text that you want for a video clip. Like, so you make a 90-second video clip, you move that into a new project really easy, like one click, and you can start creating videograms like super easy. So that's like manual videogram creation. Or like a lot of them you can do is if you upload a whole video to YouTube, like if we uploaded this IML to YouTube, what you can do is take that URL and put it into a tool like Headliner or a tool like Opus Clips or like that Make Shorts tool that I talked about earlier, and it'll go through and do AI versions of creating those clips. Opus Clips does a really cool thing where it like gives you a score. Like we scored this clip 99 because it has a really good intro hook and it's got a really good body with a good story in it. So this
How does it know? How does it know?
It uses AI, Peyton. I don't know. And then a lot of them, like they do like publishing, like from Descript, you can do an automatic publish into YouTube. I've done automatic publishes for clips into like Instagram and stuff. So the tools out there for podcasting are super cool. I have no experience. Like, it's all just like, I've kind of messed around with Premiere Pro and Audition and Audacity. And now like using the Descript, like it took me like an hour to edit an hour podcast. And that was mostly just editing for content.
John Barty, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, you mentioned something in the chat about Adobe Podcast for voiceover content. Would you be willing to speak to that? I don't know if that's been manual or if it's been more AI.
Yeah, that is pretty much AI. You take whatever the spoken word audio file you have, you put it into there, and it would make a space like this where it's really cramped and echoey sound like it was recorded in a professional studio. I've really enjoyed using it so far.
So it's like leveling out your sound for you without you having to go through and like do it all piece by piece. Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. It's a bit like magic because it's not just the mixing and mastering of it, but it just makes it sound like it was recorded on a better microphone somehow. It's really strange. I really recommend you guys try it for yourself because I was blown away whenever I first used it.
And like talk about the value of that too, right? Like before, without the Adobe or Descript doing their studio sound or however they're doing the AI audio editing, you'd have to go to an audio engineer or an audio mixer, go to Fiverr or go to a place like Resonate or Sweetfish or some of these other podcast things. And, we're doing basic audio editing for an episode for TMM. It's $69 per episode. And for $12 a month, you can on Descript do 10 hours of recording with that studio sound. So like it drastically reduces the cost for you to get into creating pillar content like we are with IML, with the podcast, like what John's doing for podcasting. So it can drastically reduce the cost and the amount of time that it takes for humans to do that type of work. It's pretty powerful.
Well, yeah, and it also would probably reduce the need for certain equipment, right? Like if you're just recording in a normal room with the microphone that's in your laptop, then you're, saving couple $100 on like, expensive podcasting equipment.
I mean, you still want to have like a decent microphone, like and record with a headset. But yeah, you don't have to be in your own little studio. Like I don't have like heavy wool blankets around me or anything, and my audio sounds pretty crisp.
Zach had a question in the chat about anyone using AI for operations and process work. And I know Salim, if it really is Salim this time, last time I called you out, Salim, your name was different. So Salim, how are you using it for operations process work? I see your
always
face
answers my questions. Salim always has the answers to my questions.
Zach, was there any more specificity you wanted to add on to that?
No, I was just thinking of it, and I'm like, yeah, like the conversation is talking about AI for content. And it just occurred to me that there's this whole realm of our work that is process and that is operational. And, so much of that is, figuring out, someone mentioned A/B testing, but also just, I think it's Kevin, but, you know, just the timing of someone's buying process. I was talking to an engineer last week, it was actually at Graco, who said, like, yeah, we look at we throw away newsletters when we're not in process, when we're not in a buying cycle, but we keep them when we are. And I'm like, well, how do you know? He's like, well, now that I've moved up into purchasing, I kind of just keep all of them and just sort of like look at them when any of my engineers are in. I'm like, well, okay, that's fascinating. So like, how do we know? He's like, well, that's where we just sort of expect our reps to, keep in touch. I'm like, okay, so maybe this is a job for AI.
Maybe.
And I don't know how that would work other than to maybe fish around to see when things are opened or when things are looked at, to look at those spikes on searches. But so I want to hear what Salim has to say. I'll shut up now.
Well, some of this advice might not be accessible if you don't have HubSpot, but one big piece we use AI for is data quality. Operations Hub has, when you log everything, then you have to go through logs to look at patterns. Now there's AI monitoring for data quality in HubSpot. There's also AI forecasting for CRM. So instead of relying on reps making an assumption in their forecasting, if you have enough data going back historically, now AI can do forecasting for you and give you a percentage of how confident they are for your forecasting for pipeline. But to get out of HubSpot, what we've been using AI for in operations is we take our meeting transcriptions, feed them into an LLM like Chat-GPT. We use Claude and ask it to give us action items. I know there's a lot of tools that do that for you, but we kind of like the simplicity of Chat-GPT or Claude. But I don't know if people here count this as operations, but we do. We don't count knowledge bases as like marketing content, but we've also been doing a lot of work experimenting on generating knowledge bases using AI. And we've been working on a workflow that involves the company's SME just to reduce the involvement of this SME, because SMEs usually don't have time. So we've gotten into a situation where we can generate a suggested list of topics, then we get those approved by the SME, then go back to the AI, generate these topics, and get the SME to edit instead of developing the content. And we've been successful at creating something that usually is an afterthought, and everybody's like, no, we don't want to create knowledge bases. Now these knowledge bases are being created quickly, and support teams have been loving it. For people asking Claude, like Brendan said.
That's so interesting to use it for meetings.
Thank you.
And I might as well talk, but everybody's been talking about content. We also use AI for content, but not the way like these tools have been going through. We're still sticking with like our guns. Like we still edit on Premiere Pro, but we have add-ons, an add-on called AutoPod, which takes a multicam podcast, and based on the audio, if it's recorded in multiple tracks, like in Squadcast or in Riverside or in Zencaster, based on who's talking, it does the automatic switching of cameras. And if there's two people talking, it does like a joint view, so we can edit a full hour podcast in literally 30 seconds. And then we take transcriptions of podcasts and use those to generate ideation for written content afterwards.
Very nice. Yeah, Brendan, that's faster than what you said earlier. You said an hour for a podcast, so
yeah. And I have Premiere Pro though, and that's like $10,000 a month. whatever
Well,
it costs.
well, speaking of additional costs, Andrew Legrand asked if Chat-GPT Plus was worth it. Yeah, Andrew, feel free to come on and talk a little bit more about how you're using Chat-GPT or what you're looking to get out of it, if you can find your unmute button.
Yeah, I mean, we just kind of started diving into it. We're a really tiny team here of 5 people. And I actually work for an association rather than a manufacturer itself. So
but a manufacturing association, you're in it, Andrew. You're welcome in this community.
But yeah, I mean, we're kind of just now diving into what's out there, and we don't know if we want to start paying for all these things. We haven't really even tested them out. So I was just curious to see if anybody's had any experience with the paid versions.
Yeah. So I think you can get into Chat-GPT 3.5 for free still. So I have a subscription to a company called Poe, so POE.com. And that is put on by Quora, the company where you can go, like, people ask really weird questions and you can, that's like that question and answer forum thing. But so they have this tool called Poe, and a subscription to Poe, I think, is $16 a month. And then that gets you access to the subscription levels of GPT-4, Claude 2, like the GPT 32K, which gives you pretty large like input windows. And then the Claude ones go up to 100K. So like what I've been doing is like putting like whole podcast transcripts into my input and having it summarized there. So for $16 a month, you get access to those tools. And I think GPT-4 and then Claude 2, extremely powerful. I think you get much better results than you would get out of a 3.5. A lot of these tools too, you can do like a month at a time, right? So I would recommend, if you're interested, sign up for a month. And if it's cool, then do like the annual plan, right? Where you can save some costs there. But I found it to be really helpful to have those for the work that I've been doing.
I swear it's like a different language. Like everyone's just name dropping all the different tool names. Yeah. I'm like, okay, wait, what is this? Is this a person? Is this I think they're trying to purposely kind of name them like people.
And that's why I asked which one is actually worth it, because I don't want to pay for, 6 or 7 different subscriptions if I didn't even know about Poe, where you could get
so Poe's been nice because you get access to all of them. So you can kind of like put a prompt into GPT, a prompt into Claude, and see like which you like better. Like I found like for a longer stuff, Claude does a better job of like the creative type of writing, whereas like GPT, I do a lot of like research type things in. But I will say, like with Poe, there is a limitation, right? With like if you get the GPT Plus, like you can put a lot of plugins onto GPT, which I don't think you can do in Poe, or you can't do it yet. So I've never really played around with like adding a bunch of those extensions that are available through OpenAI. But if you just want to use the large language models and like have a chat window with it, Poe is really great. But if you're looking to do more advanced tools, you might need to look into like a GPT subscription like by itself.
Awesome. So we haven't talked about Google Bard yet, and I just saw Caitlin post in the chat that she's Team Bard over Team GPT. Caitlin, tell us, what have you been doing with Google Bard? Why do you like it better?
That is a hill I will die on.
Okay, all right, yes. Let's hear it.
I love Bard. I feel like the free versions of everything is where I get hung up on, right? I don't want to pay for anything that I can't justify massive amounts of success on. So Chat-GPT is free. And the limitations are, again, we're stuck to 2021 and prior. And then some of the information that I'm getting back from it is just junk. Like we're in radio frequency shielding. So it's very specific, and the information that's readily available on Google is not up to snuff. And so Bard gives me a little more depth, I think, when I'm talking about those kind of topics. So yeah, for my specific use case and the things that I've needed out of these, AI tools, like Bard all the way for sure.
Nice.
Interesting. We had, and this is something that I think is a whole challenge wrapped up, no matter what tool you're using. I think I tried to use Chat-GPT for something before. And where I struggled was from the first moment I put anything into the little text box. Like I was like, what do I even tell this thing?
Mhm.
And I started by asking it a question. And I think that's, after discussing in like this prep call, we talked a lot, and Kevin, I think you said, what was the phrase that you said? You're like, you can't ask it questions.
You can't ask it to do something, you have to tell it to do something. So every time I prompt ChatGPT or Bard or any of these, I say, for example, I was asking it to get me a good budget for a LinkedIn campaign. We have a way of calculating that. I wanted to see how ChatGPT did it. So the way I prompted it, I said, you will act as a LinkedIn ads expert. I will give you the goals of my campaign and like the setup, the optimizations. You will recommend a budget for this campaign. And what it came back with was actually pretty darn close to what we would get with our regular calculation. But to get to that answer, I had to try like 5 times to come up with a prompt. You have to, the output is only as good as the input. Exactly. You really have to tell it exactly what to do.
It is one of those things where it is garbage in, garbage out. And you kind of have to like think of these tools as like an entry level person or like a, intern level person, right? Like if you give them very vague directions, just go work on this thing. Yeah, they might go work on it, but they're going to come back 8 hours later, not anywhere close to what you wanted it to be, right? But if you give them very specific instructions, format it this way, research this, and then at the end, this is what I want you to give me, then you're going to get a lot closer to what you wanted out of it, right? So one tip I have here is once you like start going through and testing out different inputs, you can copy your input and then just save it into like your Notion database or a Google Doc so that you can just copy and paste it in later and use that as the base prompt that you use, and just keep building off of it. One thing I have noticed too, if you give it everything, like let's say you want to write a piece of content after you've interviewed at SME, if you give it the transcript, like the whole transcript, and like it does a pretty good job of reading through that and summarizing it and putting that into a format that can be read as an article. So the more that you put into the input as terms like resources, the better it's going to do giving you something on the backside. If you just try to have it go and do its own research, it's going to be pretty limited. Oh, Salim.
See a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, we've found specifically for content, a lot of success using conversation versus a single engineered prompt. So we take transcripts of podcasts and we feed it to Claude and then ask it to summarize bullet points first. Once we like the bullet points, we edit if we want to remove or add any of it. And then we prompt it to develop the content. And then we start like adjusting, saying like tone is too informal, make it more punchy, make it more edgy, like, and then we get to the point where we're comfortable like taking this piece and just doing the usual edits, and it works. It speeds up a lot of our, for example, social media posts based on these clips. Like we can get a post out within 5 minutes versus trying to develop a really well thought out post that might take 30 minutes.
Yeah. Nice, Salim. Brittany had a really great tip here in the chat. So she said to ask the tool what it needs. So she says, for example, when writing a press release, she asks what information it needs for me to write a good press release. I take that outline and add it in my information. Then I place it back in and ask it to write it. So yeah, I love that. Just asking what it needs to do really good work. The other thing that you can do too, like, I think we all know, the headline is the most important piece of any copy, right? That's what draws people in. You can ask it to give you multiple versions. So tell the tool, give me 10 different versions of a headline. And then you say like, okay, I liked, 3 and 7. So combine 3 and 7 into a headline, and like Salim said, make it more punchy, make it more formal, add humor, do all that kind of stuff, and work it to a place where it gets to a better final product.
This kind of circles back to a question that Dale asked early on about if the tools can be trained to use your own voice. Brendan, I know that you said that you've like kind of fed the tool content before, but
yeah,
but
so
yeah, I think
it is possible to do that, right? Like, so I think there's ways to do it if you have like the GPT plus, where you can give it like documents and start building out like make your own repository that it bases its language model off of. There's other tools out there like Jasper. So I think Jasper is one where you can go in and add in all of your brand language, and then it will write based off that. I found Jasper to be a little difficult to use, but that was probably 6 months ago, and I haven't used it since. It was a little expensive for me to get in on it. But yeah, so otherwise, like if let's say you have like 2 really good articles, Dale, that are on your website, or like this is like the primo thing that our voice sounds like, you can just use those in your prompt and say, use this article as a basis for the language that I want you to use, right? So make the article sound like these other 2 articles, and it'll do its work to get it to look like that. Or you can like give it a couple articles and just have it analyzed and say, based on these 3 articles, describe what my brand voice is. And then it'll kick out, your formal, you use this. It gives you all the factors. And then you can use that in a future prompt, right? And just have that as a base prompt that you use for every prompt you have going forward.
Interesting. That's how I feel about all of this. Just interesting. Hopefully this conversation gets me over my hump of like, okay, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to play with it. Yeah. Another use case that folks are curious about was using it for SEO. And I know we talked a little bit about using it for keywords, like keyword generation, stuff like that. Kevin, like you specifically were like, you could use it, but again, kind of like as a brainstorm pal, not sure how much you would trust it.
Yeah, I mean, you could, again, put in a really specific prompt. I'm going to be running a paid search campaign, or I'm looking for SEO keywords. These are my core group of keywords that I'm starting with. Can you make me a list of additional keywords to target? Just to get the ball rolling, like Brendan is talking about, fear of the blinking cursor on the screen. But I would never like prompt an AI to give me keywords and then run and put those into my paid search campaign. I would then take those and then put them into Google Keyword Planner to figure out exactly how relevant they are, what the budget and bid should be, put it through an accredited tool to get that end result. But again, just idea generation.
I think a better way to do it would be to use a tool like Kevin said, like Google Search Console or SEMrush, or stuff like Ahrefs or all these other keyword tools, right? Do your keyword research there and then use those keywords in your prompt and tell it to write an article based on these keywords. So you should probably do your own research. And I think a lot, like Salim and a bunch of other people said, not recommended to use these tools in keyword research.
Yeah, not something you're just going to all of a sudden just blindly throw money behind. Carla, you've brought up a couple great points in the chat throughout the whole conversation about ways that you've been using it, using AI, I should say. You just mentioned using it for like frequently asked questions, things like that. Would you be willing to come on and speak to a little bit about how you're using it at your company and for your situation?
Can anyone hear me?
We can.
Oh, okay, cool. I have headphones and don't have a mic, so I guess I'll turn around. So I've been using it for my computer for content clusters. So we've been working really hard to rank for the keyword gear motors, all the variations. And I used it to write a bunch of blogs, ask for frequently asked questions, and just how to make my landing page better. So I ran those blogs by engineering, because if you scroll up, I had said that, we always want content from engineers, because I can only tell you so much about a gearbox,
Yeah.
but they know the nitty gritty. So it's easier to send it to them and say, hey, does it sound right? Or are there any glaring mistakes versus, hey, can you write me something from scratch? So we got a bunch of content from that page, and we got a boost in organic traffic to that page. So like right now we rank like between 1 and 5 for any variations of the word gearbox, gear motor, gear motors, gear space motor. And we gotten a cert for one of the questions like, what is a gear motor? And we were that drop down.
That's awesome.
Nice. Okay.
So you're seeing, like, you're getting traction from the output of whatever you've used, like whatever you've done with AI tools. You're like, okay, I'm seeing, like, after you put some more work into it, and you're still running it through your team like you would any content that you're writing.
Yes.
But it's working for you.
So yeah, that's how I use it. Put the link in there. I know some of the rankings and stuff may have switched, but I know as of the summer we had that serve. It may have gone down because, you know, algorithm.
Yeah, that's life, right? That's awesome. Really cool to hear about that. Well, folks, we're coming up to our 45-minute mark. One thing that we haven't talked about, but I want to put Patrick on the spot because I think it's pretty cool. This gets a little bit more technical, but Patrick, tell us how you've been using AI to help level up your technical skills.
Yeah, so internally, I make a lot of dashboards for Gorilla using Google's Data Studio. And some of that's just basic stuff like Google Analytics connector, pick a dimension like the campaign you have, and then how many sessions did it drive. But sometimes if you want to make like a custom visualization or do a different breakdown that's not already in Google Analytics, like certain event names only, or breaking everything down from paid media versus everything else, sometimes requires like SQL coding. And I don't know SQL coding. It's like, as an analyst, whether it's Gorilla or mostly any other agency, like we're very techy, but we're not quite like our web developers who build websites. So this doesn't just apply to SQL. It's also like probably can be applied to a lot of technical skills. If you don't feel very comfortable doing it, you can ask AI like, hey, how would I write this code if I want the data to do this? I will say, I don't know about the other options, but I know Chat-GPT, its technical knowledge only goes up until like Q4 of 2021, which holds it back a little bit just because Google Data Studio has been updated since then. But if you're doing like Facebook, LinkedIn, Google Ads, Data Studio, Tableau, you can typically ask Chat-GPT like, hey, how do I do this or make it do this? And there's even instances I put in the chat where the language or like code that it gave me didn't work. And I told it the specific error message that Data Studio gave me. And then it's like, oh, it literally says, oh, my bad, gives me a fix, and then it works. So it's a nice way to like level up your technical skills.
Very cool. All right. We've covered a lot of ground. We'll definitely, if you're in the IML Slack community, or if you want to be, just post in the chat and we'll invite you. Folks have been asking for like the recording of this call and things like that. We always share that in there. So happy to do that. I know we've mentioned a lot of tools, and we can start a thread about that too. There's even some tools that came up in the chat that we haven't like talked about specifically. I think someone mentioned really liking lex.page too. So there's that. One other thing I wanted to say before we move into like final thoughts from the team about like, all right, so now we're in this world of AI. What do we do? Adam, I saw your question about HubSpot. I know that some of the AI tools are available, but a lot of them are still in beta. Have folks like been able to get access?
We do. We have access to it as far as, but it's kind of like two sides of it. There's the, I can't remember what the heck they call it now. They have a goofy name for everything. There's the one where it's the lead scoring, which seemed really cool. And then there's the one where the chat spot, which it does a couple things where it like analyzes a contact and can say like summarize the history of it, but it'll also like write content and things. And I just started looking at it. I haven't done anything with it yet.
Yeah, I don't know how much we've really used it, but
yeah.
For the writing side, it's kind of limited. I think you can only really use it for blogs and emails if you wanted to generate some content for you.
But if you're writing a lot of blogs and you're writing a lot of emails, I mean,
it's not bad. It's amazing how little it needs to give you something, but I don't know if it's as good as some of the other tools as far as being able to refine it down and it give you something that is really kind of original and not just kind of spitting back out what you gave it.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move to some final thoughts. Kevin, Alan, Brendan, what do you think? We've talked about a lot. We've covered a lot of ground. Kevin, we'll start with you. Where do folks go next?
Well, I think with AI, we talk about it. We're talking about it so much. It's the talk of the marketing world. It's 2023 is the year of AI, but I think you'd be shocked at how unbelievably early we are in all of this. I think we're going to look back at this video, this YouTube recording in 10 years and laugh at all of the tools we're talking about and how simple they are, because AI is going to affect everything that we do in a very significant way. I think about like social media in the late 2000s and how it felt like this is going to be big and it's going to impact marketing, but we didn't really know what to do with it yet, right? There was millions of users, maybe tens of millions, not hundreds of millions and billions. I think AI the same way. Like, we are so early. And I think it's really cool that we're talking about it and we're learning so much now, because it's going to be the foundation of everything we do for the rest of all of our careers. So just whether you're using it for actual marketing deliverables or you're just using it to learn, it's still incredibly valuable to get in there and get your hands dirty.
Yeah, and I just want to reinforce something that came up in the chat. HubSpot has an option to put your transcript in there and it will give you a call report or something like that. And but before you do it, it warns you, hey, everything that is in this call report is going to be going out to the wide world of AI to be mined and used. Be aware of that. So be mindful of when you have something in your SME interview or whatever it may be that you don't want to be out there for the world to use.
Yeah, also, so folks like Jonathan who are doing some competitor research.
And pro tip, but be nice to your AI now. Earn brownie points so that when there are overlords, they will like it.
Brendan.
Yeah, I just say try stuff out. Just play with it. It's a playground right now. Who knows where it's going to go, but be early and just be paying attention and just play around with things, and then find some resources that you like, podcasts or newsletters or, people on TikTok or LinkedIn, and just listen to hear what's going on. So you don't have to be the ones doing all the research, right? Like, we all have other full-time jobs. So play around with it, but, rely on the resources that are out there that people are actually like, this is what they're doing for their work. So that's what I'd say.
Awesome. Yeah, one that I shared in the chat already, that Brendan shared with us the other day. There's a website called there'sanaIforthat.com. Helps kind of give you a breakdown of what there is. And then a podcast that we've been listening to, Marketing AI Podcast, has been something that we've been binging at Gorilla. So if you're interested in this topic, want to dive deeper.
I'll shout out a newsletter that I've been following. It's called The Code. I will put a link to how to subscribe to that in IML Slack.
Sweet. Awesome. And so thanks everyone for joining. I know we ran a little bit long. We've got, can't believe we're in Q4, but our next topic is going to be with the lovely folks from Cadina's Part Solutions, Adam, who's here today. I think I saw Kelly join too. We're going to be talking about organic social. I know that's a huge part of so many in-house marketing roles. So Adam, super excited to have you and the team join us on October 19th for that.
We'll be there.
Yeah. And then last thing I will say, have a great week. That's all I've got. I hope you
guys podcast episode dropped, part 2 of industrial product launches with the Graco guys. So we actually talk about product launches. So jump into your podcast player and check out that episode. It was fun. Me and Aaron were on there. We had a good time.
Awesome. Great. Lots of great content out there. We'll be following up with you all, and we'll see you in Slack. Until next time. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.